Hey, this is Mary at Mary Unapologetic. I'm back. It's been a while, folks. I'm actually late today because we are having technical difficulty. My husband usually set up our system, but he forgot the camera at the shop. So I am actually trying to do my best just to do this podcast using my laptop rather than our regular setup here. And then not only that, let me see. He usually change it up things for me and some kind of like I'm not. I can get by as far as technology, but if he makes it complicated, like a broadcast, radio station kind of setup, then that gets to be too much for me. So usually I, seek his help as far as setup. But if it's like a normal thing set up, I can go do it and get by on my own. Okay. So what is this episode today? Well, there's a couple of things that I actually want to cover. The first things first, I want to cover how to be organized or even like what are the steps that you need to know to get even more organized. So if you are already organized, well, maybe I can share some ideas with you folks of how to get even more organized. So it's being organized on like steroids. That's that's how I look at it because if like for example me, I'm already organized, but because I'm running three companies with my husband, as well as having three kids, I have to be double organized. Because running one company, folks, really, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress. So if you're not organized, it's always chaos at the shop, right? Well, that's what I want to eliminate. So that way my life is not stressful. Um, that's one of the things that I want to talk about. The second thing that I want to talk about is customers lowballing your price or your work. We actually dealt with a customer today that I thought I want to share it with you guys, and I'm going to actually talk about that towards the end. I I don't know how long is this podcast going to be, but we'll just roll with it. Okay. So I just literally got home, changed my shirt, and got ready. Didn't really have enough time to prepare for this episode, but I know I need to release it because tomorrow I have stuff to do and I wouldn't be able to do it. And I don't want to let you guys down since I mentioned earlier that we're going to have a new episode today. I just trying to make it happen and we'll just go as well. I wouldn't say we'll just go with it. I mean, I did put some thought into this episode, but so that's why I'm not going to say we'll just go with it because it sounds like it's being unprepared, and I'm not like that. I'm always prepared. So, okay, first things first, I have a list here so that way I don't forget, folks. I have a list here of what I'm going to cover. And s- really, I have 8 tips of what you can do as far as being organized, or in some people's case, being highly organized. Okay. Number one for me, I usually put something like setting goals. And why do you want to set goals? Well, the reason why you want to set goals for yourself, like for me, I usually set goals probably every day because I want to be productive and I want to be effective on what I do, as well as I want to minimize chaos and I want to get the result that I want to get. So therefore, every day I have goals to meet. And also that this way I can like measure my productivity. So setting specific goals with steps and timeline will actually help you organize your work into more manageable tasks. So I know some people, they said, oh, okay, even if I set goals to myself, I don't feel like I can manage it, or it's hard to achieve. And I think the reason why it's harder for some folks out there to manage the tasks that they set for themselves is because they don't have like a step process, or they don't have like a timeline. I mean, really, when you set goals, you need to give it a timeline as far as like how long it should take you to do the task, or even like a project, right? If I have a project to do, I usually give it a timeline. For example, um, let's say getting or helping my kids to apply for college, right? Well, I usually like say, okay, this should take 1 to 2 days, or it could be like a week, depending how involved the project is or how intricate it is. But I usually give it a timeline. The reason that I give it a timeline is because you want to make sure that you meet the deadline of when that project should be done. If you don't give it a timeline or like a time constraint, then what ends up happening, it's like a project that's forever a project for you to do. So you don't want to do that, because then now your productivity as far as getting the job done or the goals done doesn't get done on time. Okay. Also, you need to set short short-term goals, also long-term goals. I usually have that, like my me helping the kids apply for college. That's a long-term goal. So the reason being, because I know it's not going to get done in a day or even two, right? Because you need to kind of like go back and forth, and depending on what it entails, it could be like months. Like my daughter right now, I'm helping her apply for college, and she's a junior right now, and I know that this summer we're not going to get things done, and it's not going to be finished everything in this summer. It's probably going to go to the fall when she starts school too, because I know for a fact that we're gonna be talking to coaches out there, and it's gonna go back and forth, and then it's not like the coach can like commit right away and say to us, okay, we want your daughter to swim with us, or attend our school. It's not going to happen like that. I know that we're going to go back and forth, because they're also going to see what's out there as far as recruiting other students. you know so it's always important to set short-term goals and long-term goals, and to identify which is which. Now, second on my list, as far as tips, is track your progress. And the reason why you want to track your progress is because if you're not tracking your progress, then you don't know whether you're productive or not. And how do you actually track your progress? For me, it's like today I made a list of what I need to get done. And then when I actually do it, sometimes, like for example, I needed to make some phone calls. Well, I didn't get a hold of the person that I need to talk to. So I left a message. So right there, it's like an open project or task for me to do, right? But when the phone call gets returned, or if I receive that phone call back from whoever I called, then I can finish what I need to do with that person. And then once I'm done with that, then I can say, hey, I made a phone call with this person, and I got done what I needed to do with that person. Now it's a task that's satisfied. I'm done. I'm done with it. And I'm going to give you guys an example. I needed to get back to a person from my daughter's school regarding National Honor Society, because I recently found out about it. I mean, after like what the kids are like in high school for 3 to 4 years. Since that I'm so busy, I left that stuff for my kids to figure out, and I realized that, hey, they can't do everything. They actually need my guidance, because now that we're in the fourth year for my daughter, that she actually needs my help. So I jumped on it right away. I did some research, and then I figured out how to follow up with the person that I need to get in touch with, as far as how to qualify for NHS, National Honor Society. And it's actually good for their resume. So when they apply for college, they can say, hey, I'm a member of NHS, and this is my grade point average, dot, dot, dot. And they also give away scholarships. So, different kind of scholarships, right? So anyways, I needed to get a hold of the person, and I went back and forth. But then once I got my questions answered, then I can say, okay, now that I have all the information of what we need to do to proceed to the next step, then I'm done talking to that person that I needed to talk to. Now now I'm done with that task. Now I need to go to the second task, or to the second, the second goals that I need to do, which is apply. So once you satisfy really one goal, then you go to the next goal. So it's like like I said, it's like a step process, right? When I do this kind of stuff, I make sure that everything is crystal clear on how I'm gonna tackle it, and or either that how I'm going to execute something, whether I have a plan or not. I need to make sure that I can achieve it by having like a step process, so that way when I am actually already doing it, that at the end of the tunnel, or at the end of this task that I'm trying to do, I actually come out of it as a winner. When I say a winner, is that I actually achieve what I need to achieve. So I don't set goals without having a plan. Because if you set goals without having a plan, whether it's a step process or not, then you are basically setting yourself for failure. So you need to make sure that when you set goals, that you are setting yourself to be successful. And by doing the step process, either writing it or not, then you are just setting yourself, to be on a good, positive side of this setting goals that you're doing for yourself. Okay, let's see here. Now, how do you actually do a step process? Well, this is the third tips that I have for you guys. Use an agenda. Every day I have an agenda of what I need to get done, whether it's something for my work, for our business, or I incorporate my home stuff there. Like for example, helping my kids, for college, or whether maybe I need to do something for our home. So I usually have an agenda, and for me, it's, I usually have good memory. If I'm going to remember all of this, let's say I have 5 things that I need to get done today, like and that's my agenda for today. But for me, it's always better. And this is where, like, being organized on top of trying to be highly organized. Instead of me just having it on my head of what I need to get done today, I actually write it down, because when you write it down, it's even better. So that way you don't forget if you're getting distracted. Like in the office, really, when I'm like when I'm at the office, at the shop, I'm getting distracted by my office manager asking me question, or Mike is trying to get me to do something with him, or asking me questions regarding a customer or something. So I'm like getting pulled right and left, or sometimes even up and down, that if I'm not highly, highly organized, I'm going to forget what I need to do for today. So that's why I create an agenda for myself. And it's actually a reminder for me too, because even though we say that we're not forgetful, you never know when chaos is incorporated at running the shop, or maybe like one of your kids calling you, and because there's a problem with I don't know, it could be anything. Like today my son said, oh, he called me, he said, oh mom, I'm done, I'm done at the gym. What do you want me to get you for lunch? Do you want me to get you something? And I'm like, here I am thinking I have bigger things to do before the end of the day, and I need to make sure that my goals for today, a list on my agenda, get satisfied, or I actually end up doing all of it. So tomorrow I have a new stuff on my agenda. Um, Here I am. I'm like thinking what I need to do as far as what's today. And then my son's calling me, Mom, do you want something to eat? I can get you something to eat. Really, it's so sweet of him to ask me because he's thinking of me, right? But I'm like, no, I'm okay. I need to focus on what I need to do today. So you don't need to worry about me. I can like manage myself. But that was thoughtful of him. But I also know that the reason why he's calling is he's trying to get an approval. Should I buy myself lunch rather than going home and making lunch for myself? I know his technique. That's why he's approaching it that way. It's like a reminder, should I buy myself food rather than making myself food at home? So, but anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked here. Yeah, I usually have an agenda, and and on my agenda I have a list, and then with that, it helps me to be more organized throughout the day. And then once I finish a task on my agenda, then I check it off or cross it off. So that way now it kind of prompting me to go to the next one on my list. Yes, folks, I do have a list. Uh, and actually, the agenda works also when you're doing some kind of a meeting, like when we did like the Mega Media event in Texas. I created an agenda, what's going to be on the first day, what's to expect in the first day. And then, it's hour by hour too. It doesn't have to be hour by hour, folks. You can like create your own thing, whether it's every 2 hours. But for me, on that day when we did our mega media, it's hour by hour. And then on the second day, I also have another agenda. And then this way I can see, by the way, and compare my notes whether what I did on the first day is a repetitive for the second day, because I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to be like different. The first day should be different than the second day. And then it also hold me accountable to make sure that I got something done, that hey, I did this today, I check it off on my list, so that means that I can now move to the next on what's on my list. So it holds us accountable, and really you really need to hold yourself accountable as far as when you're doing stuff like this, because if you don't, then what ends up happening is that you end up dropping the ball, on yourself if you don't hold yourself accountable. And then the next thing you know, you're not as productive as you want it to be or you should be. And then not only that, is that if you don't get stuff done when you need to get things done, um, I think for me, okay, because I'm like analytical, it creates this self-esteem issue where you feel like you're not getting anything done. Then you start hating yourself for not getting things done. And then when you do this repetitively, guess what happened, folks? Your self-esteem go down. And the reason being is because you feel like a loser for not getting things done or not being productive, or you drop the ball on yourself. You know what I mean? Because you really didn't get anything done as far as the task that you should have been doing. So it's better to have a list and to hold yourself accountable. What else is on my list here? I mean, my list here. I actually covered that. Create a to-do list. Okay. The to-do list, I've already kind of mentioned it to you, what you should be doing. So basically you should have an agenda, and then your agenda, you should have a to-do list. And even with that to-do list, it should be like organize your work based on urgency. And that's why I told you guys, when I have an agenda, I have a list, and then on that list, as I satisfy it and I finish it, then I cross it off or I do a check mark. Okay. So how do I do my list? Well, the way I do my list is based on urgency or what's the most priority. Like for me today, when I walked in the office, I said, okay, I need to follow up on this customer because I know that this customer needs to book an appointment. And I got the message late late yesterday afternoon, and I didn't want to get back to the customer because I'm already off the clock. I don't want to have to do more work once I'm home. I tried to create these good habits now. Well, I've always let me rephrase that, okay? Because that's not the right message here. I've always created good habits for myself since I was a teenager. The reason being is because I want to get as much done in a day or maximize my time in a day so that way I can measure my productivity. And this is even before I have a business. I did this when I was in college and, working for someone because I want to make sure that I maximize my time so that way I can actually have extra time for myself to spend time with my friends. Now, remember, folks, when I was in college full time, I was also working full time. Due to that, I was paying for my college. I didn't have the luxury of one of my parents or both parents to help me out. So I was on my own. So at that time, I made a decision that I need to create good habits for myself so that way I can be very, very highly organized to maximize my time. So even though I'm working full time and going to school full time, I will have extra time for myself. It's just I call it a me time where I go out with my friends and enjoy. So that way I'm like, I look at that as decompressing. So that way I can like reset myself again from focusing on work Monday to Saturday or Monday to Friday at that time. Well, I still practice that still to this day. That was like what? When I was a teenager and I'm in my what, 50s now. So it's been like 30 something years and I'm pretty consistent. Once I create, you know, stuff for myself to do, I try to be consistent. When I say try, I make sure that I'm consistent because if I'm not consistent, then I know chaos will happen, and I try to eliminate chaos because I know throughout the day when you're dealing with business, in my case, it's three businesses, and then kids, not just one kid, three kids, and then a husband. And then, for myself, I try to make sure that I am consistent because if I'm not consistent with what I need to do, as well as like creating good habits for myself, then guess what? Something's got to give and chaos will happen. And I try to minimize chaos so that way I can get more stuff done, by being highly organized. Okay. So when I said urgency, like today, like I said, going back to that story that I needed to get back to my customer because I wasn't able to do it yesterday. So that was on top of my list today. And then once I'm done with that, then I moved on to um, going through my invoices. I'm organizing actually my receipts. Okay. Not just invoices, also receipts. I meant to say receipts, but I said invoices because in my mind, I'm thinking receipts, but invoices is what came out. Yeah, I'm organizing my receipts because I'm actually, doing this for tax purposes, right? I want to make sure that my receipts is like categorized, and then even without everything is accounted for. So that way, once I'm done with it, I can file it and I can feel good with myself that, hey, I'm done with it. I can forget about it and not have like an inkling feeling in the back of my head that it's half-assed done. So I don't, I try not to put myself in that kind of situation because if I do, then it's, putting myself to failure. Even though for me, even though it's tedious work, I try to do it so that way at the end of the day, I can say to myself, you know what, this is 100% done. And I gave my 110% to get it done. So that way, there wouldn't be any doubt that I half assed the work. Okay, now moving on. That's, by the way, number 4 on my tips, right? Creating a to do list. Now, number 5 is accountability. Practice. We talked about this already, and I'm not going to I'm not gonna what do you call this minimize this, because I think it's important, and I will stress enough here that accountability is important. If you hold yourself accountable as to the task that you need to do, or the goals that you set for yourself, you know then you're doomed for failure. That's why you need to hold yourself accountable, and I do that all the time. um so at the end of the day, I can feel good about myself, saying, you know what, I got stuff done. And the reason why I got it done is because I held myself accountable. There are some people, folks, and I'm just going to tell you this. They preach and preach and preach about certain things. In this case, we're going to talk about being organized, right? You got to do this so that way you can have this end result. They preach, my point is, they preach and preach and preach, but they don't practice what they preach. And I've seen this from people time and time again. And it's almost like I want to say, dude, don't even preach if you're not gonna like practice it, because it's like hypocrisy, you know. And believe it or not, when you say stuff but then you don't follow up with action, like meaning practice what you preach, people start noticing that. And when people start noticing that, you're not going to be more convincing to them if you don't practice what you preach. So it's almost like I want to say to them, don't even say it at all. So you don't, you know, I don't want to, what's a nice way of putting it without saying a bad word? It's kind of hard, folks. Sorry, okay? I'm just going to say that word. Don't screw yourself by, you know, saying things that you don't practice, because it's hypocrisy. And people really, when you are hypocrite, people will take notice, and they will know that right away, because they'll remember stuff. Not everyone is the same with me or you. You know what I mean? There are people or folks out there that have good memories. I happen to be one of those people. So if you say something and I remember it, the next time you know, basically say stuff that you basically kind of like didn't you basically, if you said stuff that you didn't follow through and I'll remember that, well, then I'll be like, this is hypocrite. I can't respect someone who's hypocrite. You know what I mean? That's why don't even say it at all if you're not going to practice it, because you're setting yourself for failure and for people to not respect you or have less respect for you because you are hypocrite. So that's number 5. Okay, number 6, incorporate a timer. Well, what is that? When I said incorporate a timer when you're setting goals, okay? When you set goals, I said it earlier, put a timeline on it of how long you should do the task, whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal. Now, why do you need to incorporate a timer? Well, at least it will keep track of you how long it takes you to do a task, right? So if you know how long it will take you, for one, that will keep you accountable, because now you know that it will, let's say a certain task, you put like an hour for you to do that. Well, you need to make sure that you get it done in an hour. That will hold yourself accountable to get it done within that 1 hour. And the second thing that will do for you, if you put if you incorporate a timer on it, is that if you think a task will take an hour, but then you ended up doing it, like 2 hours for you to get that task done, then now you know for next time that it doesn't take a task or that particular task to do an hour. It actually takes you 2 hours now, because maybe other factors, you know, came in, right? And so what you think it will take you an hour to do now took you 2 hours. So that's why it's always better to incorporate a timer on every task that you're going to do. And if it's going to be on your list, you should be always already figuring it out how long it will take you to do it. And if you're not sure, then at least just create an agenda. And then just as you are actually doing a task, my advice is that go ahead and time yourself. I like to do this, by the way, folks, when I time myself. Like for the longest time, when I was in high school, I actually crazy, right? I actually time myself how long it takes me to get ready, from washing my face in the morning to brushing my teeth to putting, my skincare and putting the makeup on and doing my hair. So when I was in high school, I found out right away that it took me an hour to do the beginning to end, to get my face ready and my hair. And back then it was like the 80s, how you would like fix your hair certain ways because you would like, you will like fix it high. That was the style back then. Yes, folks, I had that. I used a lot of hairspray to fix my hair and it was like high, like, my bangs, I had a bangs back then. And it took me from putting my makeup on and fixing my hair an hour to do. That was like a lot. Because after I was reading some health magazine, they said really you can get your makeup done like in 20 minutes or even like 10 minutes. And I'm like, what? Then that starts, that got me thinking maybe getting myself ready, like taking the time, such as an hour to get myself ready, is not really productive and not really a good thing or good habit to do. Right. Because eventually I started thinking when I have kids, this is back then, by the way, folks, this is what I was thinking. Once I have kids, I wouldn't have the time in the world to get ready, or to even have an hour to do all this stuff. So I need to minimize that time and I need to figure out how I can be more productive or efficient. The word is efficient, to get my makeup on, fix my hair, and to look presentable. Why do I do this? Because I want to make sure when I walk outside the house, the front door, that I'm actually what? Presentable. Now, if you're going to ask me how long it takes me to pick my clothes and get ready, as far as putting my clothes, that doesn't take me a long time because I already have it in my mind what I'm going to wear. Although, if I'm going to compare myself to other women, some women I know for a fact takes probably 15 minutes or so to find the right clothes for them to wear because they couldn't decide which clothes to wear. Me, I already have it in my head what I'm going to wear. And if it's like a top and a bottom, I usually have that also in my head. So that way, uh, I'm not like putting it on, taking it off, changing my outfit. I don't want to be one of those people that's like indecisive as to what to wear for the day. Uh, okay, let's move on to the next thing, folks. Number 7, limit distractions. Okay, I think these are some of the folks out there's problem, right? How do you limit distractions so you can be organized or highly organized? Well, it takes a lot of concentration. I can tell you that it takes a lot of concentration. Like right now, I'm going to give you an example. As I am speaking, I am picking up background noise right now because my window is open. It's like actually a motorcycle. So I didn't want to get distracted as to what I was saying earlier. So I keep telling myself, focus on what you're saying. The outside noise, kind of like just eliminate that. You know what I mean? Don't focus on that. So it takes, I'm hearing the motorcycle right now too. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but right now I'm still hearing it. But it takes a lot of concentration. And I think for me, really to concentrate, I I don't know if you notice, folks, my eyes kind of wonder whether I'm looking upward or to you guys, or if I look at the camera, then I can focus more sometimes because I'm also seeing in my head what I'm going to say next, right? So that way I'm not just babbling here some nonsense stuff. Yeah, so it takes a lot of concentration. Now, I know some people they have ADHD, it's hard to focus because they have like a million things going on in my head. I think what would help, this is, me suggesting to those folks out there is to probably maybe 3 times a week really listen to classical music and then just sit there. I've done this, folks. I don't have ADHD and I don't have ADD, but I've done this where you can just sit there and listen to a nice, relaxing music. Really, the reason why I suggested classical music is because there's something about classical music that is good for your brain wave. And it relaxes you. And when it relaxes you, the brain wave kind of like goes into this mode of being able to think clearly when you're relaxed. And I'm not BSing you guys. The only reason why I know about this is because I've taken psychology class and also other classes that studies brain, right? So this stuff I've discussed in class with my, peers, with my fellow students and teachers, and we've analyzed it back and forth, ins and out, da 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 da. So, anyways, that's why you can even Google it. Classical music is actually good for your brain. And when it's good for your brain, it gives you more I guess, clarity and it gives you more focus. It helps you with focusing, right? So try that, and also, I don't know if you've noticed, try this at home. If you listen to classical music, you kind of just clear what's in your head or what's in your mind. Um, and then just kind of like picture, for me, it's an ocean. I love the ocean, right? So if you picture an ocean and just listen to classical music, it almost like take you in another place where you don't need to be in that place to be relaxed. It takes you in another place where you can actually change it actually change your mood. And then when it changes your mood, it gives you this peaceful feeling of having to be able to focus on the next thing that what you need to do, whether you have a task that you put aside, like in the back burner. Then when you do that, then it kind of open up also your mind for some clarity as to how to solve a problem. I used to do this a lot when I was in college. And the reason being is because when you have a short period of time to study for the midterm and also the final, and then to remember all the stuff that you need to study for those uh, tests, in this case it's like midterms and finals in a short period of time, you're in you're in a time constraint, right? You're putting in so much information in your brain that sometimes really you need to clear out all this stuff, including just relaxing and lowering down the basically kind of like lowering down the stuff that's going on with you, and the background noise of what's going on around us. Really, it can make you focus and give you clarity. And sometimes, when I'm trying to solve a problem, it helps me think clearly, so then it opens up new ideas for me to solve a problem. So that's how I really relax or give my mind some break from all the stuff that's going on. I mean, come on, folks, every day there's a lot going on, right? Whether it's having to deal with your business, and then when you're running a business, you have so much stuff going on, like solving a problem, customer complaints, making sure your technicians or even yourself, how do you run the shop smoothly? Because when you when you're running your own business, stuff happens, chaos happen every day. Is a different chaos, right? And then when you have a family, then now you have family problems that you need to deal with. So really you need to know or learn how to give your mind a break from all this stuff that's going on around us. And then also our society itself, so much happening, and your brain is absorbing all this stuff that's happening. You got to give your brain a break, really. So number 7 is limiting distractions. That's how I limit distractions in order for me to be able to focus on what I need to focus on. Okay. Now let's move on to the last tips that I have. Last tip that I have for you guys, because I have 8 tips altogether, right? The last tip really is, oh my gosh, it sounds like I'm losing my sound here. I hope I'm not. So the last tip I have as far as how to get organized is really just enjoy the day. Don't stress out on anything that come across in front of your face. Meaning, you need to learn how to stay calm, in any situation, right? Excuse me. And I think this is more so in, running your business, like at the shop. Even if, let's say, there's a fire in the back of the office, and people are going bananas, like, hey, there's a fire. I think I learned how to not, panic, because really, I think when I used to work at the hospital, they taught us not to panic, because when you panic, you can't think clearly. And when you can't think clearly, you can't solve a problem. When you're panicking, you're making it worse. You know what I mean? So when you're panicking, you're like, you're walking around with your head cut off, like, how to solve a problem. No, you don't want to do that. Or how to solve a situation. Like in this case, like, I'm going to give you guys an example. When I was dealing with a customer who's irate and who's trying to convince me to give him a discount, and he happened to find the item in a discount bin, and actually it's not a discounted item. Somebody, maybe a previous customer or a customer, put that item in a discounted bin, but since that customer found it in a discounted bin, he had certain expectation. He wants a discount. And since that item is not a discount, I have to explain to the customer, this is when I used to work for a company. I had to explain to the customer that it's not a discounted item, and it's not on sale. So he could be screaming at me, yelling at me, calling me all the names that he can call me. I need to de escalate the situation. And to do that is I need to stay calm. I need to not panic, because if I panic, then all these emotions will run high. And the next thing you know, I will lose my temper. So I learned to not panic. Now, if you guys ask me how to do that, I mean, come on, folks. You guys can teach yourself that, I mean, you can even do some yoga stuff. I have never taken some yoga, but there are times that when I just listen to music, I go and make that funny noise. It's stupid. It's a stupid noise, and it's a funny noise, but seriously, it helps when you just make that noise, like some of those people that have taken yoga classes. They, it looks kind of like dumb, but really it helps you. Those exercises, those like noise exercises, like whoa, that will help you, to kind of like focus and to teach you discipline, and to like make sure that you don't panic when there's a situation, that is chaos, that that is in front of you. In order for you to be able to think clearly, you really need to stay calm, so that way you can tackle the problem um, clearly, and make good, wise decision, and also choices, right? So now that I have told you guys my 8 tips as far as how to be organized, and for those folks that are already organized, you can just use some of this to be even more organized. Every day for myself, I I read stuff, or if I or somebody, gave me some pointers on some of this stuff that I already know, then I will just take that stuff to another level to make it more better for me. Because, you know, um, to improve what you already know will only help you in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because for every situation, things happen differently, and you cannot apply, or like how to solve, let's say, how to solve a problem. You cannot apply how to solve problem of what you dealt with a year ago to, let's say, what's happening now, because it's going to be different. So that's why, I think also I don't panic, because I am very prepared. When you're prepared, I think you are less likely to panic. That's why, uh, that's why for me, it's very important to be highly organized, because when you're highly organized, then you're prepared. Then you don't panic, right? So moving on, I'm going to share with you guys some of the stuff that actually I think I talked to you guys earlier, about a customer who actually lowball our estimate. So we had a customer walked in today, and he said, "Hey, I need um, an estimate on my scratch, right? My bumper scratch." So we went out there, gave him an estimate. He wasn't happy with it. He said, the estimate, actually, to be specific, okay, so you guys can understand, this estimate that we gave the customer is 350, and he wasn't happy with that. He said, "Okay, no, 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 I don't like 350." He was like, I guess I'm trying not to talk like him. I mean, he's like he's got an accent. So I'm gonna try not to talk like him, because sometimes with me, I like picture in my head and I start talking like them according to who they are, right? I'm gonna try not to do that. So, anyways, he said, "No, I don't want 350. I want 250." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, 250? We cannot do the work for 250, because for this reason, your scratch is deep. We're going to have to fix that scratch, the gouge, before we actually do the other step process for us to prepare you to paint that scratch on the bumper." And he said, then he threw this curveball. He said, "Oh, if you're not going to give me that for 250, then I'm going to go with the other ones, the other people, because they only quoted me 250." And then we're like, "No, no, 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 no. We can't do that, because we cannot go that low." Because he's basically expecting us to give him like $100 discount. Our minimum is, somewhere already that price that we quoted him originally. And then now he wants us to go even lower. And then that's already, by the way, discounted. So, to be nice, for first time customer, we want to give him a break. So we kind of lowered it even more, right? So we're like, "Okay, we're lowering it by this much." And I don't want to say how much, just because I don't want people to have an opinion about it, or a negative notion about it. But I did lower it, but not too much, right? I lowered the price originally of what we gave him, which was 350. No, he wants to stick to the 250. And then we said, "Well, you know what? You have no assurance that whoever is doing it for you for 250, because we can't imagine somebody doing the work for 250 that's going to give him like a 90, 80 to 90% quality as far as what we can give him." And so we said that maybe if the reason why he's getting 250 is because maybe it's not of a as high quality as we are. But then he said, "Well, it's just the nerve, I guess, of how he was like, trying to rebuttal from one thing to another." Then he said to us, "Well, if you don't want me to go to them and them not screw the work, why don't you give it to me for 250, so I won't have to go to them and screw the work." Excuse me, folks, excuse my French. I didn't want to use that word, but That's the only way on the top of my head that I can use. I don't know how to say it in a nice way. You know what I mean? But anyways, he's basically asking us that in order for him to not go to the other company, that there might be a high possibility that they don't do high quality as far as work, you know, or painting his bumper, then maybe I should give him the 250 so that way it will prevent him from going over there and, not screwing his bumper. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And I seriously, at that moment, I felt like we're in another country where, going back and forth as far as lowballing the price. And sometimes you will get customers like this, folks. When you do get customers like this, it's like there's a flood of emotions that's going through to you, right? It's like the nerve of this guy to lowball my price, right? That's already like getting you upset. Secondly, you're like thinking, oh my God, should I be professional or should I say something very, very smart ass? Now, folks, you got to understand, my husband is a smart aleck kind of guy. And that's not such a bad thing, because there's a lot of folks out there that's their humor, right? I just accept them for who they are. They're smart aleck. And when you are around with these people all the time, you become like one. So you kind of learn from hanging around with them, you know. So now I am also, I say smart aleck because I'm trying to be nice. I'm not. I, how about if I say smart A, smart ass? I want to say smart ass. But okay, so I can be a smart A as someone can be out there, and I can be worse because I can be very, very, um, cutthroat where I can say something that's really, really, a smart aleck that will offend someone. Sometimes I try to like catch myself from not doing that, but it's just my sense of humor now too. Kind of like other people's smart sense of humor rub off on me now. But anyways, in my mind, I was thinking, should I say something smart ass? But I'm like, no, you can't do that. This is a customer. You need to stay professional. Even though I want to do it, I, stop and like, nope, stay professional. Then another thing too is that when they go back and forth with you, like I said, a flood of different emotions will come to you as far as you're insulted. So you want to say something of a smart aleck to him to kind of like offset what he's trying to insult you with. And then another thing too is that you don't want to lose your temper to a point that your change of tone or your tone change, right? That there's a change of tone there. Everything's going to be elevated. You know what I mean? So you want to be careful with that and you want to be aware that you're not changing your tone, that you're consistent. Because when that happens, they can read that and then who knows, maybe something might happen. You guys might go back and forth, he might get irate. And then another thing too is that your body language, you need to make sure that your body language is not something that's like he could be reading it that is offensive to him. And the only reason is because you're trying to explain to the customer that, hey, I don't want you to insult my price. And the reason being is because of this. You're explaining it to them, but then they're kind of rebuttaling with your conversation that is like still lowballing you. And remember, he's not aware whether he's aware or not aware of what he's saying, it could be probably offensive to you. So now someone is being offensive to you, but you can't treat and be offensive back to that person. And this person is your customer. So you need to stay professional at all times. So we just respectfully decline to not service him. So normally, how would I approach that? Well, after I educated the customer, and the customer is still adamant about lowballing the price and not budging as far as what price he wants us to charge him, then in that case, I don't want to go back and forth. I want to shorten the conversation, because when you prolong the conversation, it's going to lead to no good. It's back and forth, back and forth. No, I don't want to do that. So I would shorten the conversation, and I would just say, respectfully and kindly, that, you know what, if you don't want to pay the price that we ask, that we quoted you, then you might as well go to that company that you said who's only going to charge you this much, because I can't meet that price. And just because we are a company that we take pride of our work and we produce quality work. So, you know, he's not your customer. He's or her not your customer. So just go, move forward, because there's two things too, folks. If you end up doing that customer and agree to the price that he wanted you to lower your price to, um, for one thing, yes, you have a customer, but it doesn't make you feel good, right? And then not only that, you don't want to create that wave of people that's going to think that your service is cheap, and that because your service is cheap, that maybe they might question the work that you do, as far as quality. You don't want to create that. So, and I think the most important part of it, folks, is really yourself. We as business owners, we don't want to feel bad when we deal with customers, right? We want to take pride of what we do. And you can't do that when you are like accepting, prices that are lower than what you should be accepting. I mean, eventually you would like feel bad about it, and then it will affect your self-esteem, and the next thing you know, you're going to be like, I guess, you hold grudges or not nice to people, and you don't want to do that, because not everyone's the same. There are other people out there that's like willing to pay for what you're worth as far as your work. Or also, there's people out there that, yes, they want to, discount, or they want a lower price, but once you educate them, they change their mind, and then once they see it from your perspective or your standpoint, then they do kind of like, agree with you. And if they still want to, have you do the work for them, then they'll accept that. But then also, there are those, I don't know what's the percentage. I don't really want to like get into it. That there are those people that's really just like trying to play this game with you. And then for me, I don't like to play games. I'm just like, look, this is what we do. This is the price that I quoted. Don't get me wrong. I can give a little bit of room to lower the price, but once they expect you or wants you to lower the price, by a lot, then that's like taking advantage of you, and you don't want to be taken advantage on. So, folks, I really appreciate you joining me for an hour. I didn't think that it's going to be an hour today. You know, until next time, I really appreciate you following me and listening to today. It's like we have five actually uh, listeners here right now, or even like people watching, and it's been an hour. Now, I will probably, I haven't really decided on this, but I will make announcement. Just make sure that you guys follow me, at Mary Unapologetic. And I will make announcement whether I'm going to drop another episode 2 weeks from now, but I will be out for vacation with my family, because this is the time that we need to decompress, so that way we can, relax, and we can come back again for another, what, 6 months, 7 months, or maybe a whole year of me giving my 110% to my customers, or in this case, my listener. But listen, we all need to decompress. However, you guys do it, We all need it in our lives. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like taking my family on vacation. But for some people, probably just, doing something else, right? Or doing a staycation, or even just going to a nice restaurant, or maybe just going to, a gym or in a room where you can relax. Whatever it is, don't forget creating good habits for yourselves so that way you can live happily and less stress in your life. And by the way, folks, I'm also doing another podcast with PDR interview, but this one is for our industry. So anyone who wants to, listen to that episode, I will share it probably here too when I do an episode that's actually relating to like everyday life. And then the next time I come on, I will have a guest and we're going to do something fun and something like important, to talk about. So I'm going to put my outro. And folks, I really appreciate you being here with me today. It was a good hour. And until next time, and I'm saying goodbye.